Good morning. Today is December 1st, 2023. Welcome to the fully virtual remote California Architects Board meeting. November was National Native American Heritage Month, where the original peoples of what is now the United States of America are celebrated. California Native Americans have been caring for the land of California since time immemorial. I would like to acknowledge that Los Angeles and Hancock Park, where I sit before my computer with you now, are located on the traditional and ancestral territory of the Gabrielino and Tongva Nation. I'd like to thank them for their hospitality and stewardship of this land. At this time, we will begin with item A on the agenda, the call to order, the roll call, and establish a quorum. Apologies.
All right, this is Brick Gladstone. I'll read the names. Sunny Ward.
Present.
Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones, are you there? Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, I could barely hear you, but I thought it. Gladstone is here. Fang, Mr. Fang?
Mr. Fangs will join us in about 30 minutes.
Okay. Ms. Kanani?
Here.
Ms. Kwan? Sylvia Kwan? Well, I saw her last night and so she said she'd be here, so I guess she's running late. Mr. Manukia?
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Perman?
Present.
Ms. Serrano?
Here.
And Mr. Suisse?
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Secretary Gladstone. I apologize. Back to the Zoom days. I had a dog that thought he wanted to join the meeting, but decided he wanted to leave. So I'll just remind everybody, it sounds like we have a quorum. 6 members of the board constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. The concurrence of 5 members shall be necessary for motions to carry, except that when all 10 members of the board are present, the concurrence of 6 members shall be necessary to constitute an act or decision of the board. I believe by the end of this meeting, we should have all 10 present, but just to remind everyone. Okay, we'll move on to item B. Welcome. And I'd like to thank and welcome Pamela Brief, our new LATC chair, for attending. We're very excited to have you on board. I'd also like to thank and welcome our new DCA attorney, Helen Jaffrey, who will be our legal guide through this meeting. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to working with you today and forward. Would you like to say hello and introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Helen Joffrey, and I've been with DCA for almost 4 years now, and I am pleased to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. This meeting is being held via WebEx events, pursuant to the provisions of Government Code Section 11133. A physical meeting location is not being provided. Anyone interested in participating in the meeting must join this WebEx meeting. Information and instructions to join were and remain attached to the agenda posted on our website. Due to resource limitations, DCA is unable to webcast this meeting. I would like to remind the board of our voting requirements today. All motions and seconds will be repeated for the record, and 2, votes on all motions will be taken by roll call. At this time, I would like to stop and ask for public comment on agenda item B, our introductory remarks. Moderator, would you please open up for public comment?
Absolutely.
We are open for public comment on the president's remarks. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. I see that we have mobile device users today. There is only one screen out of the 3 in front of you that will have a hand button, so you may need to flip through those. Dial-in users will need to dial *3 in order to raise a hand. If you cannot find the hand button or you have something that you need help with, there's a Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen where you can type the word comment or your question, and I will help you out. We will call on people in the order that we receive requests. You will be given 2 minutes to speak with a 15-second warning, I believe is what we have today. My apologies, a 30-second warning. And that is everything. Seeing no request for comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
You're muted. You're muted.
It was really good too. Sorry. Okay. Since we have no public comments on our introductory remarks, we'll now move to item C, which is we'll entertain public comments on items not on the agenda. Before we take comments, I'll remind the board that we may not discuss or take action on any item raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to refer the item to the board's next strategic planning session or place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Moderator, will you please open back up for public comment?
We are once again open for public comment, this time for comments not on the agenda. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users will need to dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. If you cannot find the hand button, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please. Also, before I take up the next item, I see one of our upcoming presenters in the attendees list that will need to be upgraded, just to let you know.
What is the name, please?
Harmony DiFilippo.
Thank you.
I apologize now for any confusion, but in order to honor the time of a couple of our guest presenters, we will now begin to take a few items out of order. We will skip item D and move to item E and receive an update on the Department of Consumer Affairs. I'd like to welcome Judy Bucciarelli from the DCA, who will present a report. Almost. There you go. Oh, wait, welcome, but we can't hear you. So sorry. We can see you, though. Not yet. If it's okay with you, I can stop and pause and maybe we can allow you to work on the technical difficulty in the background, and I can move on to our item F. And maybe someone from the office can help you with the dial-in number or something, just so we have audio. Okay. We'll move now to item F, a budget update. This can be found on page 12. And I'd like to welcome and thank Harmony DiFilippo for joining us for this presentation. Oh, wow. There we go. I think we might be able to hear you now. Can you try again?
Good morning. I'm sorry. I was waiting for Harmony to jump on, but I am Veronica Hernandez. I'm the budget analyst with the DCA budget office. So I'll be presenting the budget today for the board and the executive staff.
Beautiful. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to present on agenda item F, the board's expenditure projections and fund condition statement. First, I'm going to be going over the board's expenditures, which is page 12 of your materials. These projections are based on actual data through fiscal month 3. This report includes 2022-23 actual expenditures, as well as 2023-24 budgeted and projected expenditures. As we move to the end of the document, you will see that the board had a beginning base budget of approximately $4.966 million. And they are projected to spend a total of $4.55 million, creating a reversion to the board's fund of just under $414,000, which is a reversion percentage of about 8.33%. Moving on to the next document, I'll be going over the board's revenue projection, which is on page 13 of your materials. This report includes receipts collected through September and projected revenue to year end. I'll go further into the projections as we transition on to the next slide, which is page 14 of your materials. And on page 14, this is the board's fund condition statement. As a reminder, we read this document from top to bottom and left to right. The left column is the board's prior year 2022-23 actuals. It shows the board began 2022-23 with a beginning balance of just over $4.44 million. Collected $3.075 million in revenues, with $382,000 from initial license fees, just over $2.5 million from license renewals, and $138,000 from issuance of citations, fees, and delinquent fees as well. The board expended nearly $4.48 million, which includes $362,000 in direct draws to the fund from statewide pro rata and pension payments. The board ended 2022-23 with just under $3.04 million reserve balance, or about 7.3 months in reserve. For current year, 2023-24, the board projects revenues of $5.826 million, with approximately $482,000 projected from initial license fees and close to $5.2 million from renewal fees. Also $146,000 from the issuance of citations, fines, delinquent fees, and other revenue. The board's 2023-24 expenditures are based on the Budget Act with fiscal month 3 projections, and is just under $5 million between authorized expenditures and direct draws to the fund, leaving the board with a fund balance of just under 3.87 million or 8.5 months in reserve. The budget office will continue to monitor the board's revenue and expenditures and report back to the board with monthly expenditure projections as we continue to close fiscal months in the current fiscal year. A few things to note on the board's fund condition. It is a snapshot in time. One of the main factors driving expenditure increases in future years is a result of personnel service adjustments. These include general salary increases, as well as employee compensation and retirement rate adjustments. The budget office includes a conservative ongoing 3% increase to expenditures on the fund condition statement to account for these ongoing incremental adjustments. You'll also notice that revenue is projected with the historical high-low trends for the out years. The fund condition statement includes current year of 23-24 revenue with the projected increase for initial and renewal licenses. However, budget year +1 is based on current year budget act and will be updated during the next workload revenue drill, providing us a better idea of how the regulatory fee increases will impact future revenues. Lastly, I'd like to note that the board that any future legislation or unanticipated events could result in the board's need for additional resources, which could create cost pressures on the fund. The budget office will continue to monitor the board's fund condition statement and keep the line of communication with the board's executive staff open for any future needs or expectations. And at this point, I would like to thank you for allowing me a chance to present today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hernandez. We do have a hand raised from Secretary Gladstone. Do you have a question, Secretary?
Yes. Do you know how
Secretary Gladstone, I believe you may have two devices turned on. You're going to have to mute one of the devices or turn the volume off of one of your devices.
Is that better?
I'm sorry, we're still getting an echo and reverb. Are there any other questions from other board members? Vice President Jones, I can hear you, but it's very faint. Sorry.
Vice President Jones, is it possible to move closer to the microphone?
I'm so sorry, it got worse.
Also, President Ward, Mr. Swiss had his hand up.
Member Swiss.
Hi, I was looking at the numbers and I think I answered myself, but I want to confirm. Is the fact that the renewal fees fluctuate this much because the renewal is once every 2 years?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Has there been any effort stagger them or maybe give some people an extension so you get roughly the same amount every year?
This is Laura Zuniga. I can help answer that question. So it's a good question. We have kind of peak and off-peak years for renewals, and when we issue an initial license, it's not valid for the full 2 years because it's tied to the licensee's birth date. So next year, as we undergo sunset review, we're proposing we change that so that everyone gets a full 2-year license upon license issuance. So hopefully that will in time kind of smooth out the peak and off-peak years. So the revenue is more, I guess there's less swings in the revenue.
Thank you.
Vice President Jones, May we try you again? Bummer.
Can you try me?
Yes, Secretary Gladstone, let's go to you.
Thank you. I fixed the problem. I forget what line in the budget it's on, but there is a line in the budget that says reversion of 20.39% of the budget. And I was wondering what that meant. Is that meant to say that we didn't use all the money allocated to us and that it's a kind of use or lose situation? Or what does that really mean, a reversion?
That you're halfway there. That is correct. So reversion is you did not spend all the money that was allocated to you in the budget, but you're not technically losing it. We're still very, very early in the fiscal year. So these are just projections. But that would be a cost savings. A reversion is you're not spending the entire amount of the budget that's allocated to you at this time.
So that's just a picture of a moment in time, and it may be by the end of the fiscal year that statement no longer exists, correct?
That is correct, but that's why we meet with the board or we do the projections every month so that we have that line of communication and we're reporting on the actual number, the actual expenditures that come in every month, and we're seeing those numbers fluctuate so that if and when we were coming very close to, let's say, getting that reversion number down below, a 5% or something like that, the board would know way ahead of time.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know.
Of course.
Is my mic any better now?
Yes. Awesome.
Excellent. Sorry, I apologize.
No problem.
Ms. Hernandez, thank you for your report. I guess my question is actually, I'm looking at page, let me just figure out what page I'm looking at. It's the revenue projections report. Is this the appropriate time to ask about that?
Yes, definitely.
So can you kind of help me understand? I'm looking at the year to date, for example, for regulatory fees and licenses and permits. For year to date, we were basically at 123, and projected by year end is 482. But is that all happening in 1 month?
I'm opening up on my screen so I can make sure that I'm looking at the right number. I apologize. Can you repeat the figures that you were looking at? So I have it up on my screen now.
Yes, I'm looking at the other regulatory licenses and permits number, and I'm looking at year to date at 123, and the projected year to end is 483. So I'm just trying to figure out in 1 month you anticipated that.
So the No. The year to date, the 123 is the total from July to September. So those are your actual revenues that have come in. That's the actual dollars that have come in. Projected to year end, I apologize, you don't see all the months on here because we've made the report small enough to fit on a slide. But what projected to year end means is basically those are the revenues that we are projecting from October through June. And so if we have projected correctly, the projection, the year end total for that revenue line item would be 482. So that's just the projection, but the year to date column is what has actually come in.
And I think that the disconnect for me was you're saying that the projected is through June of 2024, not of December of 23.
Correct. Right, because it's a fiscal year. Correct.
Gotcha.
Fiscal year.
I'm with you. I thank you for that. It helps me understand.
Sorry about that. Yeah, year end being the fiscal year end. I apologize.
Thank you.
Any other board member questions? Thank you for the ones we received. And now I would like to ask our moderator to open this up for public comments or questions, or comments, not questions, comments only. Moderator, will you please open this up?
We are now accepting public comment on agenda item F, I believe. Hold on just a moment. We'll get the instructions up on the screen in just a second here. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise a hand. If you have trouble finding that hand button, there's a comment section. There's a Q&A button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen where you can type the word comment and send that to all participants. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please. Ms. Hernandez, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
I believe we can move back to item E, and maybe staff can help me, but I believe we have an attendee that could possibly be Judy Bucciarelli, the call-in user 2. Is that possible?
Judy was able to call in, so
Great.
that is probably her.
I see her, and she's been elevated. So welcome back, Judy Bucciarelli. Are you with us, and can you do a mic check?
You may need to dial *6 in order to unmute.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Success. Welcome.
Perfect. Listen, I really want to apologize for the audio. I'm not really sure what's going on with my computer. I tried every setting to unmute myself, and I wasn't successful. So I apologize for that.
No problem.
Well, good morning. Okay. Good morning, board members. My name is Judy Bucciarelli from the Department of Consumer Affairs, Board and Bureau Relations. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to join all of you today. On behalf of the department, I would like to welcome newly appointed member Fuad Suisse to the California Architects Board. To begin today's report, I'd like to provide a business, consumer services, and housing agency update. On November 28th, Governor Newsom appointed Tamika Moss as Secretary of Business, Consumer Services, and Housing Agency. Secretary Moss has been the founder and CEO of All Home since 2019 and previously served as the CEO of Hamilton Families from 2017 to 2019. Secretary Moss was Chief of Staff in the Oakland Mayor's Office from 2015 to 2017, Executive Director of Hope SF in the San Francisco Mayor's Office from 2013 to 2015, and is the board president of the Nonprofit Housing Association of Northern California. We extend a warm welcome to Secretary Moss and look forward to working with her. Next, I would like to share a diversity, equity, and inclusion update, also referred to as DEI. On November 7th, University of Massachusetts consultant Christopher Veal provided a virtual training entitled DEI Dialogue for Leaders to 173 DCA managers, supervisors, and leaders. Veal's training covered psychological safety and how it affects these conversations, as well as interactive discussions about the challenges that leaders are facing. Participants were given a training survey, and the feedback was extremely positive. The DEI Steering Committee will hold its quarterly meeting on December 15th. The committee will review a draft DEI intranet webpage that is currently being developed, elect a 2024 chairperson and vice chairperson, and discuss DEI training as it remains a committee priority. Once operational, the DEI internet page will provide all DCA employees information and resources, including DEI hiring principles, which will serve as a guide for those involved in the hiring process. The DEI Steering Committee would like to continue to learn about and showcase the DEI activities of DCA's boards and bureaus. If your board has DEI efforts to share, please send them to Board and Bureau Relations. DCA continues to support its boards and bureaus in expanding culturally competent communications and promote the importance of meeting the needs of all California consumers, licensees, and applicants. The latest issue of DCA's Consumer Connection magazine includes articles with information important to consumers, including a feature cover story translated into 4 languages to further the reach of this information. The magazine is available on the DCA homepage, and printed copies of the magazine are also available. To request printed copies, please email consumerconnection@dca.ca.gov. Next, I would like to highlight Department of Consumer Affairs' new military portal launch. On November 29th, the department successfully launched a new process and portal in support of service members and their families following new federal and state laws passed this year. Known as the Federal Professional License Portability and State Registration Portal, this new DCA online portal will allow boards and bureaus to accept online requests from military service members and their spouses who currently hold a valid license in good standing in another state, district, or territory, and to register their practice in California within the same profession or vocation if they relocate to California because of military orders. This online portal will allow DCA to properly receive, track, and review requests to ensure compliance with federal and state law. In addition, DCA's military resources webpage and board and bureau licensing webpages have been updated with federal professional license portability and state registration information. It is vital that we provide service members and their families coming to California under military orders with the highest level of customer service and assistance. DCA continues to strongly encourage all boards and bureaus to streamline internal processes using single points of contact for military licensure requests and process all military requests as quickly as possible. Developed and implemented completely by DCA staff, this is a huge accomplishment. We are very proud of the talent and the teamwork that made this portal a reality. Moving on to in-person meetings and the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. As a reminder, DCA boards and bureaus may conduct entirely remote public meetings without notice locations accessible to the public through December 31st, 2023, so long as the public is able to participate in the meeting remotely. Commencing on January 1, 2024, 4 meeting options will be available pursuant to the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. Option number 1 is a traditional single location option. This is a meeting where the majority of members are gathered at one publicly noticed and accessible location. No members are participating remotely, and there is no requirement to allow for remote public participation. Option number 2 is a traditional teleconference option. Board members are located at different publicly noticed and accessible locations, and they are connected via phone or WebEx. There is no requirement to allow for remote public participation. Option number 3 is a new teleconference option. A majority of board members are gathered at one publicly noticed and accessible location. The extra board members above a majority can participate remotely from private, non-public sites, and the meeting must allow for remote public participation. And finally, option number 4 is a new advisory body teleconference option. All members of an advisory body can participate remotely from private, non-public meeting sites. The meeting must have at least one publicly noticed and accessible location where at least one board, bureau staff member is present and where the public can participate in the meeting. Additionally, the meeting must allow for remote public access. DCA encourages all of its boards to work closely with their board counsel to ensure compliance with the Open Meeting Act. Should you have any questions or concerns, please let Board and Bureau Relations know. Equally important, I would like to provide a required board member training reminder. As the end of the year quickly approaches, there is a DCA-wide mandatory training that if you haven't already completed, we ask that you do so immediately. All DCA employees and appointees, including board and advisory members, will need to complete sexual harassment prevention training by December 31st, 2023. This training is available in the department's Learning Management System, also referred to as LMS. If board members need assistance with accessing LMS or require additional information about this training, please contact your board's liaison or DCA Board and Bureau Relations. This month is also a perfect time to make sure that you have completed all of your required board member trainings and submitted your certificates of completion to your executive officer and to DCA at memberrelations@dca.ca.gov. Next, I have an out-of-state travel update. California's restricted states travel list has been eliminated and replaced with a new public awareness project that will consult with community leaders to promote California's values of acceptance and inclusion of the LGBTQ+ community across the country. Over the past years, several out-of-state trips requested by boards were not authorized because the travel was to a state on the restricted travel list. Now, out-of-state travel to all states is permitted if the trip is critical to the functions and needs of the board. Out-of-state travel requests must still follow the established process for review and approval by DCA, agency, and the governor's office. For questions, please reach out to your executive officer or board and bureau relations. Next, I would like to share information related to the Our Promise State Employees Giving at Work campaign. In partnership with board members, DCA will continue its tradition of generosity in caring for our communities. This year's Our Promise Giving at Work campaign is underway and runs through December 31st, 2023. Leading our efforts this year are DCA's co-chairs, Monica Vargas, Deputy Director of Communications, and Yvonne Durantes, Assistant Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations. This annual campaign gives state employees, including board members, an opportunity to support nonprofits through a one-time donation or payroll deduction. These contributions make a positive impact by providing vital resources to those experiencing poverty, homelessness, food insecurity, and offer support to causes such as veterans, animals, the environment, and more. We hope that you will join the state's campaign and contribute to a nonprofit or nonprofits of your choice. For additional information on how to give by December 31st, please contact Yvonne Durantes. Moving on to the State Employee Food Drive. The annual California State Employees Food Drive started this month and runs through January 8, 2024. In our effort to support families in need, DCA has distributed collection boxes at the following Sacramento area locations: HQ1, HQ2, the Bureau of Automotive Repair, Contractor State Licensing Board, and our Evergreen office. Employees and board members can drop off non-perishable items in the boxes for DCA to donate to a local food bank. Collection boxes will be in place through January 8, 2024. For more information on how to make a difference as part of this year's food drive and other ways to participate, visit www.fooddrive.ca.gov. And the last item in today's report is information about the Board and Bureau Relations Fall Newsletter. BBR sent out its 2023 Fall Newsletter, which was distributed to board presidents, vice presidents, and executive officers. The newsletter is also available online at the Board Member Resources page on the DCA webpage. This concludes my report this morning. The BBR team would like to thank the California Architects Board and their staff for their hard work and partnership over the past year. We look forward to 2024 and all the great work that lies ahead. Thank you for your continued service and for protecting the consumers of California. I appreciate your time this morning, and at this time, I will turn it back to Board President Ward, and I welcome any questions from the board.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Do we have any board member questions or comments? I see none. Moderator, will you please open up for public comment?
We are accepting public comment on the DCA update, agenda item E. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dialing users will need to dial *3 to raise a hand. And just a reminder, mobile devices, you've got 3 different screens and only one of them has that hand button. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please. Are we closed?
We are ready to continue.
Thank you. Item G. We will now review and take, and this is on page 15 of the packet, by the way, but we'll review and take possible action on board meeting minutes from our previous meeting on September the 8th. Do we have a motion, or may I have a motion to approve the September 8th, 2023 board meeting minutes, please? I have a motion from Member Serrano. Would you like to make this motion?
I would. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of September 8th, 2023.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second?
This is Board Member Ron Jones. I'll second.
Vice President Jones has seconded. Secretary Gladstone. Oh, actually, we'll stop now and take public comment.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. If you'd like to make a comment on the meeting minutes, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests.
I'm going to ask our members to mute their microphone, please.
Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, please. Secretary Gladstone, will you please take a vote?
Yes. Sunny Ward,
Yes.
Ron Jones,
Yes.
Gladstone, yes. Tin Fang, not here. Sylvia Kwan, are you here? Not here. Mr. Manukia?
Yes.
Mr. Pearman?
Abstain.
Abstain. Ms. Serrano?
Yes.
And Fred Suisse?
Abstain because I'm new and I did not participate in the previous meeting.
Before you calculate the tally, Secretary Gladstone, I do believe Member Kwan is on and available. I'll actually go to our legal counsel at this time to find out if we need to do this vote over and take a new roll call before we finish this vote, or what's the process here?
No, we could just ask her to voice her vote.
Okay, great. Member Kwan, may you unmute if you're present with us? I see your presence, but I don't have a visual, but I see you're logged in. Okay, we'll proceed.
This is the moderator. I've sent a request to Kwan to unmute.
Thank you. Secretary Gladstone.
It looks like Commissioner Kwan, are you there? Are you voting to approve the minutes of the meeting?
I believe she stepped away. Let's proceed with the vote.
I think the vote count, as I have it, is let me correct. Mr. Manukia voted yes, so that's we have 6 members in a favor without counting Ms. Kwan, I think. So I think that carries.
Can we take a visual vote from Member Kanani? Is that acceptable, or do we need an audible? If we get a thumbs up from Member Kanani, does that count legal as a vote?
Certainly.
Okay. Member Kanani, if you would like to vote for the passage of the meeting minutes, can you give us a thumbs up, a visual? A hands up, finger up, yes, that's a yes. Secretary Gladstone, we have a yes vote from Member Kanani. Can you add that to your count?
Okay. Then I believe we have votes in favor by Ward, Jones, Gladstone, Kanani, Manukia, Pearman, and Serrano. And therefore the motion carries.
Thank you, Secretary Gladstone.
Pearman abstained, remember?
Oh, sorry. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We only have 5.
This is legal, if I may. Perhaps the executive officer might be able to correct me, but standard for an abstain is that it will support whatever the majority supports. And so therefore, both of those can be counted as supporting the remaining majority, which would be yeses.
Well, thanks for
This is Laura, sure. And then also, we have 9 members present, I think, right now. So with 5 members, and that's also sufficient to carry.
That's right. That's right. We have 9 members only, so 5 is sufficient even without the additional abstains. So this motion carries. Thank you, Secretary Gladstone.
Thank you.
I'll also stop one more time to see if Member Kwan is present and we have an audible on her before we continue. Secretary Gladstone, can you mute your microphone, please? Thank you. Member Kwan, are you present? Okay, so we actually technically only have 8 still because we haven't taken a roll call with her presence and we don't have an audible, even though we have her logged in. Okay, we'll proceed. Member Kanani, I see your hand raised.
Are you talking about me?
Oh,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, Member Kanani. Member Kwan will come back to you. Member Kanani, we can hear you. Is that all you needed to do, or did you have a statement that you need to make?
No, I have 2 screens and I only can speak on the phone.
Okay, beautiful. We recorded your vote as a yes to the minutes. So unless you have any problems with that, we're going to move forward in the agenda.
No, I don't have any problem.
Okay, great. Member Kwan, are you with us now?
I am.
Okay.
Take a quick break, sorry.
That's okay, no problem. Secretary Gladstone, do you mind taking a roll call, please?
Yes, I'll do it again. Sunny Ward.
Here.
Well, here means I guess you're voting for the approval of minutes.
We have moved on from the minutes. The minutes have been approved and accepted. I've stopped the meeting and asked for a new roll call.
Okay, roll call of attendees. Thank you. Mr. Ward is here. Jones?
Present.
Gladstone present. Fang? Kanani?
Present.
Here.
Fang is present. Kanani is present.
Yes.
Kwan?
Present.
Manukia?
Here. Present, sorry.
Pearman?
Pearman is present.
Serrano?
Present.
And Fred Suisse.
Present.
Okay. Thank you.
This is amazing. We've never had 10 board members on a meeting all at one time since I've been here. So exciting new moment for me. So welcome. It's great to see everyone's faces again and nice to stop the meeting for a second. I'll now remind everybody where we are in our agenda. We've skipped around a bit. We've just taken action and approved our board meeting minutes from September the 8th. And we will now move back on the agenda to item D, the election of 2024 board officers. This is on page 11 of the meeting packet. Bear with me and I'll just read through the process for how this will go. And then I will turn it over briefly to our nomination committee to finish this process. Business and Professions Code Section 5518 states the board shall elect from its members a president, vice president, and secretary to hold office for 1 year or until their successors are duly elected and qualified. The board member administrative manual provides the following in relation to election of the board officers. The board shall elect the officers at the last meeting of the calendar year today. Officers shall serve a term of 1 year. All officers may be elected on one motion or ballot as a slate of officers unless more than one board member is running per office. An officer may be reelected and serve for more than one term. The manual also provides for a nomination process as follows. The board president shall nominate a nominations committee prior to the last meeting of the calendar year and shall consider appointing a public and a professional member of the board to the committee. The committee's charge will be to recommend a slate of officers for the following year. The committee's recommendation will be based on the qualifications, recommendations, and interests expressed by the board members. A survey of board members will be conducted to obtain interest in each officer position. A nominations committee member is not precluded from running for an officer position. If more than one board member is interested in an officer position, the nominations committee will make a recommendation to the board and others will be included on the ballot for a runoff if they desire. The results of the nominations committee's findings and recommendations will be provided to the board members in the meeting packet prior to the election of officers. Notwithstanding the nomination committee's recommendations, board members may be nominated from the floor at the meeting. Prior to this meeting, I have appointed Mitra Kanani and Nilza Serrano to serve as members of the nominations committee. All board members were surveyed as to their interest, and the nomination committee is submitting all nominations received. At this point, I will turn it over to either of Member Serrano or Member Kanani to make the recommendation for slate of officers for 2024.
Thank you. I'll take that, President Ward. Do we have a slide for the nominees?
This is Laura. I don't believe we have a slide. Would you like me to read them?
Yeah, please.
So we have one nominee for each position. For president, it's Sunny Ward. For vice president, Ron Jones. And for secretary, Brett Gladstone.
Thank you. As President Ward mentioned, we did send out several emails. We got feedback from most of the candidates, and we are happy to report that there was one member for each position at this point. So our slate is President Ward, Vice President Jones, and Secretary Gladstone. And I'd like to have a motion for
If I may add, Nilza, we had two nominees for secretary. Mr. Pearman withdrew.
Thank you. So the floor is back to you, President Ward.
Actually, I need you to, as the committee chair or committee member, to take motions and proceed with this.
I have a question. Need a legal way in.
Yeah. Yes.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay. So this is not particular to this election. I wasn't clear that a nominee can withdraw the nomination. Is this proper procedures, legal-wise?
Yes.
So we can never force anyone to take a position. So if they wish to withdraw their nomination, they can do so. I will also add that slates can be done. However, it is a compound motion. So if there is any question or dispute or whatnot, we can vote for each position separately.
No, I was seeking the legal advice on this matter. This is the first time I experience on this board. That's why. That's good response. Thank you, legal.
So I'd like to make a motion to elect all three candidates in one vote by one vote.
Thank you.
I would like to
Sylvia.
second that.
I would second it.
Thank you.
This is legal, if I may. If we can clarify who the members are so that the vote is clear.
Sure. Sylvia Kwan on the motion.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. You voted for the three candidates. If we could name who we're voting for.
Sure. Okay. Let me see if I get it right order. Okay. So Sunny Ward for president, Ron Jones for vice president, and my dear friend, hold on.
Mr. Gladstone for.
Oh, yeah, and Mr. Brett Gladstone for secretary. Sorry.
Thank you, Sylvia. Appreciate that. And can we please have a second?
I second.
And can you name yourself, please, for the.
Yeah, Tian Feng second the nomination slate.
Thank you so much.
President-elect Jones and Secretary Gladstone.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments? There are none. Secretary Gladstone, can you please call for the question?
Yes, just a clarification to legal. The nominees can vote for themselves, correct?
Correct. And we do need to take public comment before we take a vote.
My apologies. Can we please have any public comment?
We are open for public comment on the nominations. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand. And just a reminder to our mobile users, you have 3 different screens you can cycle through and only one of them has a hand. So please pay attention. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the motion?
And yes, please.
Okay. Shall I take the vote?
Yes, Secretary Gladstone, please.
Mr. Ward.
Abstain.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Gladstone, yes. Feng? Mr. Feng?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Kanani? Ms. Kanani?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Kwan?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Manukia?
Yes.
Mr. Pearman?
Yes.
Mr. Serrano?
Yes.
Ms. Serrano, excuse me. Mr. Suisse?
Yes.
Okay. We have 9 votes and 1 abstention.
Thank you so much, Secretary Gladstone. I'd like to thank Member Serrano and Member Kanani for heading up the nomination committee. And I would like to thank the board for the trust in another year. I've enjoyed this past year. I was honored to serve under Member Feng and learn from him, and honored to work with Secretary Gladstone and Vice President Jones this year. I'm looking forward to the following year and also passing the torch in a year's time. So thank you very much. Does anybody want to say anything before we proceed?
Just want to say congratulations to the to the executive committee, and you've done a great job this year, and I expect even better and more from you next year.
Thank you.
Yes, this is Member Jones. I'd like to basically thank you for your vote of confidence and to thank President Ward for his leadership for those last 12 months. It's been fantastic, and I've enjoyed working with him and Secretary Gladstone as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to echo those comments, and thank you, Ms. Khan, for your comment as well. Thank you.
Thank you all. We'll move forward. Now bouncing back around, we're on item H. I'm going to turn it over to our executive officer now, Ms. Zuniga, to give us an update on committee meetings of the National Council of Architectural Registration Boards, or as we all know it as NCARB. Welcome, Ms. Zuniga. Are you with us?
Thank you. Good morning.
There you are.
I don't have a lot to update at this point. I sit on NCARB's exam committee. We met in September earlier this year, but we haven't really taken any action on our items. Several of the committees are meeting later this month, so I think at the February board meeting, we can provide probably a more comprehensive update on the NCARB committees. But if any of the other members who sit on committees have anything to add, feel free, please, at this point to add to it. Otherwise, I don't have anything more for this item.
Vice President Jones.
Thank you, President Ward. I actually serve on the DEI committee, and I'm pleased to inform this body that we serve as a model for the nation as it pertains to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I should mention that one of the things that I take great pride in is that the DEI's advocacy for encouraging member boards to include, much like we are attempting to do under current legislation, to provide access to demographical information relative to individuals, race, sexual orientation, and the like. Though it's an option that candidates and participants have an option for, it allows us to capture the extent, the breadth, and depth of the diversity of our practice. And I think one of the things that we've asked, that we're going to be asking other member boards to do and other states to do, is to provide the same level of information to NCARB so that we can have a more robust representation of or evaluation of the diversity of our membership. So to me, that's a really big step for an organization that I think has been slow to act. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much. Member Kwan. You're muted.
Hi, thank you. I was just going to take a quick poll to see which of our board members are on committees that are going to be going to the committee summit later this month in DC. No one? It's interesting. Just so it's a refresher, of course, for the board members and also for our new board members. Every year in December, NCARB does include a number of different committees. It's not every single committee because, as you know, there are many committees, national committees. So they invite a few committees to DC to convene, not only to meet with each other, themselves, but also with each other. So I have found over the past few years that it's a very collaborative meeting. I was hoping to see that some of you may be in attendance, but it looks like none of you are.
Sylvia, just as a point of clarification, for DEI, we were told that the invitation was only extended to committee chairs.
Okay, that is also correct. So thank you for that clarification. All committee chairs are invited. In addition to that, select committees, and what they do is they rotate. So each year, a number of committees, and I think it's only maybe 4 to 5 committees, come in, they meet with themselves, and then there are opportunities where they collaborate and split up into mixed groups so that there's communication intra-committee, if you will. In addition, the committee chairs would jump around to each committee meeting to understand better how the other committees work. So I find that it's a relatively new process that they're going through, and I find that it's a very nice way to get to know not only people that you're serving on a committee with, but also, you know, other leaders. So anyway, hopefully next year some of you will be invited. And so as a first step, much like Ron Jones, you all you know, need to volunteer if possible to join these committees. Are some of you on NCARB committees, just out of curiosity, since we're talking about committees? Sunny, which one are you on?
I'm shaking my head because we have a couple of members raising their hands. Member Serrano, Member Kanani.
Excellent. Let's hear from them. Thank you.
Yeah, do you hear me?
DEI, okay. Great. Who else?
I sit on the Professional Conduct Committee, and we met privately.
Okay, excellent. Good.
Here, I'm on Credentials Committee.
Credentials, right. Pearman is on
Do you
Credentials.
hear me now?
Yes.
I'm on the Alternative to Certification Committee, which we are not invited. But when I was on the Education Committee, we were always invited for the December meeting.
Ah, interesting. That may be because it's one of the core committees. But you can see that California is doing really well. I'm so proud of us that we're doing all this participation. And those of you who are new, you have a opportunity to sign up for committees at next year's, I think, is it the Regional Summit or the ABM? Anyway, one of those two national meetings. And Laura can give you more detail, as well as Sunny and also Tien. Tien, aren't you on a committee this year?
Yes. Anyone want to speak first before me? If not, I can briefly mention about my committee. By the way, Sylvia, the sound of your voice is so low to me. I don't know to other people is the same, but the last few sentence was a little louder. But anyway, yeah, I'm serving on two committees. One which relates to what Sylvia mentioned is the Regional Leadership Committee, help organize the regional summit. So I just want to take the opportunity to announce that it is in March in Savannah, Georgia, and preparation is on the way, and I think will be a very informative gathering. And another committee I serve on is governance committee, which is more like advisory, policy governance and policy advisory committee, more on the thinking tank for some of the board issues. And this year we will assign working with staff to review, determine all the motions and bylaws and that legally documented initiatives in the past decades, and how would the NCARB will handle that, either archived or bring back to the current proceedings, or simply no action. So, and mostly we meet virtually, and we had one or twice in person as well. Yes. Okay.
Great.
Thank you. Member Kanani, I still see that your hand is raised. Do you have something else to say, or is that legacy? Okay, great. All right, great. That was a nice update. I appreciate you guys. In closing on this, I just, I always like to add and remind the board just what NCARB is. And it's definitely an important organization that we are members of and we are part of. But I also always like to remind people that it is a NGO or a non-governmental organization that represents us, throughout the nation on licensing and reciprocity. And the decision to be part of this predates all of us many years ago. And unfortunately, the bylaws of the organization only allow us one vote, for our large state, the largest state with the largest population, the largest amount of licensees. And so our organization, the California Architects Board, essentially has one vote equal to that of small United States territories. And so the only way to even remotely be heard in this organization beyond our vote is becoming very active in the committees. It's just about the only way that you could even begin to short circuit the lack of representation. It can't be spoken strongly or hard, loudly enough by me that our voice is so important, and it's our obligation and duty to the residents and the licensees of the state of California to let our voices be known. I'm proud that what I've seen over the past few years, especially with members like Serrano and the DEI committee, and now Vice President Jones, that our voice is definitely being heard. And I saw firsthand that, we can make change. I think it's an uphill battle as far as our representation in the future, and it's a flawed and faulty system that I wish that we could do more about, but I don't think we're going to be involved enough to sort of make that change. But again, I remind everybody how important the committee process is. And with that, I will move forward. Okay, so we're going to now move on to item I.
This is legal, if I may.
Yes.
If we could ask if there's any other board member comment, and then also ask for public comment, please.
Okay. Is there any other board member comment? I thought I had done that, but
yeah. Hi. I think President Ward was very humble in what he just said, because he's been one of the big instigators of diversity on the committee level, and pushed that very strongly to make sure that even though we have one representative, we have, with his push and several others just mentioned, to make sure we're well represented on the committee level. And I just want to thank you for pushing it all over the last couple of years. Thank you.
Thanks, Secretary Gladstone. I appreciate that. Member Kwan?
Yes, and I also wanted to respond to what you're saying, Sonny, in the sense that our current NCARB president, John Baker, was formerly a president of California Architects Board. And because he represents a state that is so diverse in anything that you want to talk about, the number of paths that our licensed architects have taken to become licensed here in California, has really affected the new policy that we all just saw published from NCARB. And I believe we need to give him a lot of credit for understanding that the path to licensure is multiple. And we proved it in the state of California. And so now it's become a national policy. So, in a way, even though we may not have the votes per se, what we're seeing is the ability for us to get to the executive committee and then ultimately to president from California, and hence our understanding of how the future of the practice might look like and licensure might look like is already being seen. So you see, it's happening, right, Sonny, in a different way than you would want, or that we would all want, but it's happening by growing leaders such as yourself and the rest of this board.
Thank you. I see a hand up from Pamela Brief. I was going to take an opportunity to allow you to formally introduce yourself later when we get to the landscape So I apologize for not doing so. Did you want to speak at this time?
Yes, President Ward, thank you. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate what you're saying in response to NCARB, because we certainly see the same issues with our organization and our national with CLARB. And so I will take this back. Beginning next year, I will be chair of LATC. So what I'd like to do is add that to our agenda as well and have a similar discussion with our board as you did. I think it's very timely to promote that our members are also a part of CLARB, and that could certainly give us more influence. So I applaud you on your recommendation and thank you. And I'll be taking that back to LATC.
Great, thank you for the comment and welcome. And we'll give you We'll give you a more formal introduction when we get to an agenda item that you'll be involved in shortly.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome. Do we have any other board members' comments? I have one more. First of all, I'll go back to council. We don't normally on these kinds of discussions take up public comments. Do we need to do that, or are we free to move forward after our internal comments on this?
It's always a good time to take public comment is my position, but yes, Bagley-Keene does require every item on the agenda permits the public to speak, and it's particularly important when we're online because they can't stand up and we can't see them. But yeah, it's we'll need to take public comment on everything.
Okay, thank you. So it doesn't seem like we have any more board member comments, but I just in the discussions, I have one last one that I'll make, which is the reciprocity and alternative pathways is like the perfect example for why our involvement at the committee level is important, but unfortunately not good enough. There was a recent reciprocity agreement that was reached between NCARB, which is our national NGO, non-governmental organization that represents the state governments, with international governments, one being the UK. And an agreement was reached between NCARB and the UK for reciprocity, which is great for NCARB certificate holders. However, because some of the California licensees, which we have an alternative pathways, which opens us up to a more diverse licensed body, that was not accepted as part of the reciprocity. So
I apologize. This is legal, if I may. I don't know if this is included within the agenda item of update and discussion on committee meetings. Is this going beyond either what's this agenda item or something that's somewhere else on the agenda? I apologize since this is my first time, but I want to make sure that we stay within.
This is NCARB, and if you'd like for me to stop, I will, but I'll also pass it to our executive officer. Does this fall under this category, or should I move on?
I mean, it can be within the item, I think, in the sense that it was an item that came up through the NCARB experience committee. So it is an item that was discussed there, but has since gone forward to, out of the committee. So.
Okay, then I apologize. Typically, reciprocity is kind of its own discussion for the public. So I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm giving an update based on what I know to be the meetings that I've attended and been a part of. So I think it's every bit a part of this discussion, and it's to the heart of the most important thing I think about NCARB. Anyway, we some of our licensees were not included in that reciprocity agreement with the UK, and because we only have one vote, maybe we didn't have a strong enough voice to be a stronger part of that conversation. So with that, we'll move to public comment. Moderator, may we please go to public comment?
We will accept public comment. Do you want to hear from Secretary Gladstone first?
Gladstone, is that a new hand or a legacy?
Legacy.
Thank you.
All right, we are ready for public comment on this item. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please. We will now move to item I, a legislative update. This is located on page 32, and I would like to ask our executive officer to make a presentation on the 5 pieces of legislation in the workbook.
Thank you. I'll just run through them briefly. These are all items we've discussed. So just because the legislature is adjourned for the year and the governor's done with his bill signing period, I'll give you the final update. So the first item is AB 342. This is the bill that's going to authorize the board to collect demographic data on applicants and licensees. So the governor did sign this bill, so we are in the process of implementing this, and we'll make it a part of our new online licensing system. It is optional for licensees to provide the data, but the board will report it on an aggregate basis annually. The second item is SB 372. This applies to all of DCA, and it requires a board to replace references to a licensee's former name or gender on their license and on any website upon request when the licensee's name has been changed due to a court-ordered change in gender or under circumstances that resulted in participation in the state's address confidentiality program. So we are in the process of implementing this as well. The third item is SB 544. This makes the changes to the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act that were described in detail and under the DCA update. So I won't go into detail there. Those changes take effect January 1st. And then the fourth item is SB 816. This had numerous provisions, but as it relates to our board and LATC, it raises fees for LATC effective January 1st. And then finally, SB 887, as it pertains to our board, it implemented the changes that NCARB made to the rolling clock policy and the elimination of the rolling clock. So now California will follow the new exam validity policy. Are there any questions from the members on any of the items? Sorry, I know I ran through those quickly.
Hi, this is Brett Gladstone. I have a question for Ms. Zuniga on item 1.1 on the demographic information. I note that in our staff report, it says that we can't respond by, what is it, the January 1, 2025, that we won't be able to put together a response during the next year. Could you clarify why? Because it seems like we may have, as a board, staff have information that's not available to NCARB that could be useful.
Thank you for the question. I actually think we might be able to be in compliance by January 1, 2025. I think at this time we might need to implement regulations, but we're going to go ahead and start requesting the data. So we will have some data to report by that deadline. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's good to hear.
Any other questions?
I don't see any hands in WebEx. May I turn this over to the moderator for public comment?
We are accepting public comment on agenda item I. If you would like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no requests, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please. We will move to item J, page 38. And this is an update on committees. I will begin. I'll just begin by asking Vice President Jones if he'd like to make any presentation or comments on the October 26th REC meeting.
Yes, thank you, President Ward. I want to first thank and commend staff for their work thus far on the strategic planning goals set forth by this body. I think that the work that they've done thus far has been exemplary. It's, as you know, some of the things that we're trying to do requires heavy lifting. And I just want to commend staff for the work that they've done, and we'll defer to staff for a more full-throated report on some of the outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Let's move to the November the 17th, 2023 LATC meeting. I believe we have Kim McDaniel with us. Yes. May we get an update on the LATC meeting?
Sure. Thank you. My name is Kimberly McDaniel. I'm the LATC program manager. And we had a meeting on November 17th. The meeting agenda is in your packet. I'll briefly review some of the salient agenda items. First, you'll see that there's some duplicity in the meetings with LATC and CAB, and that's the DCA update, the LEDGE update, the EO report. We both get a budget update. Our budget update was specific to the LATC budget provided by the Department of Consumer Affairs. Veronica Hernandez provided the new budget analyst provided our update. Under agenda item, the 2022-24 strategic plan, to research the economic and consumer protection impact of reestablishing the Landscape Architect Board or establishing a merged board with the California Architects Board to provide better representation, strengthen the distinction between the two entities, and increase efficiency. After discussion, the chair determined that a special subcommittee was warranted. The subcommittee is called the Structure and Operations Subcommittee, and specifically, the committee's charge will be to review the legislative history, administrative history, and make recommendations on how the future of LATC could be structured to best meet its mission. Before moving on to our new officers, I just want to take a moment to thank staff, in particular Courtney and Nicholas, as one of our team members, Stacy Townsend, moved on. And so staff have been very gracious and very patient as we've transitioned some roles and responsibilities and just tried to figure out how we can be more efficient with the fiscal resources that we have. And so I just publicly want to thank the two of them, as well as all the other folks in the California Architects Board and licensing and enforcement who have stepped up to help us make some really salient and significant transitions. So with that said, LATC elected new officers. So congratulations, Pamela. I look forward to working with you. And the vice chair is Patricia Trout. And I just want to take a moment to thank John as serving as our chair and supporting me during my transition into this leadership position. And then we also looked at our sunset report. It's agenda item M today, and made a few changes. And so the board will be asked to review those and give that the thumbs up, and future meeting dates are to be determined.
Thank you. We'll proceed with asking for any board member comments or questions. I see none, so I'll ask our moderator to open WebEx up for public comment, please.
We are accepting public comment on item J. If you'd like to make a comment, raise that hand by tapping the hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. And as a reminder, if you're having trouble finding that hand button or you have another issue, type a comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Looking around, I see no request for public comment. Do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please. Thank you. We will now proceed with our next item in the agenda. We're on item K. This is our executive officers report on page 53, and I will invite our executive officer back to make this presentation.
Thank you. I'll just run through the highlights of this. So starting on page 1, we had the meetings that we just covered, the REC met and LHC met 2 weeks ago. And then we had a budget update already in the meeting. As you can see, we have a note in here about the fund balance for LATC, but they do have a legislative fee increase taking effect in January. So we'll address that situation. We're moving forward with business modernization. The program, I guess the whole project has been extended an additional year, but within our existing budget. So as part of the next release, we will have automation of our certification of experience form and the reciprocity application. So moving on, as personnel update, as we just heard, we have a new LATC program manager, Kim McDaniel. She previously worked for the board as the regulations manager. She had left the board, but returned as our program manager. So we're happy to have her. And Ray Castro returned as an office technician in the enforcement unit. On outreach, the licensing unit had a webinar earlier this year to answer questions from candidates, held another one in September, and then also one in November. Further down, we have an update on our regulations. We have a few regulatory packages on the agenda later on this morning, so I won't go into detail on those. You can also see on the next page update on LATC regulations as well. On page 5 of the report, we start with our statistics on licensing and examination. You can see for the CSE, the pass rate is at 75%. And then underneath that, the pass rate per division for California candidates on the ARE. And then on the following page, we have the comparison between California candidates and then the national pass rate for all of the divisions. You can see on practice management and project management, we're actually doing a little bit better. And then the pass rates on landscape architects as well for their CSE and their LARE exam. Also broken down by division and a comparison to the national pass rate. Then on page 8 of the report, we have information on enforcement. The most common violations are highlighted, which are fairly consistent. Really, the only change we see that's significant is the CE audits, depending on how many renewals we have. And then you can see information on the number of complaints, how long it's taking to process them, the number of citations issued, and our pending formal enforcement cases. And then similar data for LATC. And then starting on page 10, there's a summary of all the administrative enforcement actions. So that's the last report. Are there any questions from the members?
I have one question. On the webinars, what was the attendance like?
That is a good question. I don't have that as I haven't been able to attend, but I will get it and send it out to the members.
Okay. Any other, Vice President Jones?
Yes, thank you, President Ward. Laura, I guess my only question was around the recertification process and in the auditing of continuing education. I read that in the near future, the applicants would be allowed to, upon audit, is to provide their certification digitally online if they're being audited. Has there been an analysis as to whether the cost-benefit analysis of requiring all renewals to just include those documentation from the inception of renewal, that it seems to basically be a benefit in the auditing process that you already have that information. Has any thought been given to that?
Yeah, very good question. Way back when we first implemented CE, it was a requirement that everyone submit it, and we were completely paper-based at the time, so we changed that requirement because it was just sort of an overwhelming amount of paper to manage. But now that it's digital and they can submit electronically, that is actually something that we included in the Sunset Report as a recommendation, is that we just require all licensees to submit it upon license renewal. That way, when we audit, we'll have it, and I will hopefully improve compliance as well. So very good question. And then on the number of participants in the webinars, it's between 30 to 50 per webinar. Thank you to staff for that.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, amazing. And yes, to Vice President Jones, that's exciting because that is already in our Sunset Report and approved. So, and I it's hard to enumerate, I think, by staff the cost savings, but there's clearly cost savings, if not at least emotional savings on their part. So I
there
think
is, because there's going to be a lot of back and forth trying to get those documents. So it'll be better for everybody.
That's going to be amazing. Other questions? I don't see any board member hands yet. I'll just say again, welcome back and again, Ms. McDaniel. So that's great to have you in more position with us. So thank you. I don't see any other questions, so I'll ask our moderator to please open up WebEx for public comment.
We are open for public comment on item K. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have requests for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please. Thanks. Okay. Item L, we will not take up this item today. This report was approved at our previous meeting, and no changes have been made since. We will move to item M. This is the review and discussion of possible action to approve the Landscape Architects Technical Committee, the LATC 2023 Sunset Review Report. This is located on page 138. Again, I will welcome Pamela Brief. It's great to have you with us. But I'll also at this time turn this over to our executive officer again to make this presentation.
Thank you. The board at the September meeting did approve the draft LATC Sunset Report, but at the November LATC meeting, that committee reviewed the report again and made several changes that I would say are mostly non-substantive, but there were just numerous changes, and we had another review by a different attorney, so kind of just a lot of technical and changes to get the most updated references. So if we would like another motion from the board to approve this report. So at the appropriate time, if I could get a motion to approve the proposed draft Sunset Review Report for the Landscape Architects Technical Committee and authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to finalize the report, make any non-substantive changes to the text, and take all steps necessary to submit the report to the California legislature. Are there any questions from the members?
Thank you for that. I'll just ask a general question for the board. I've looked through this. There's no highlights in our packet for the changes. Is there a way to get a brief description of just the types of changes, at least that were suggested?
Sure. I can run through them. So starting kind of on page 7 and 8, we had made some changes. There's a summary of like legislation that happened since the last report was submitted, and a few of them we didn't have the most recent action on the legislation, so we've changed that.
Got it.
And then we've added like the full reference to bills that were signed by the governor and took effect. We put the chapter number and the statute year.
Got it.
So that's several of them. We added the reference to the bill that is making the statutory fee changes for LATC. Described how it's raising the cap, but also giving the LATC the ability to implement further increases by regulation.
Great.
And see, and then we just had to make some changes to our references to California Code of Regulations and making it consistent throughout with the abbreviations. And
so to paraphrase kind of what you said so far, not substantive changes, but
right. I wouldn't consider any of them to be substantive, but there were just, probably 24 or more changes. So it just seemed appropriate, even though they are not substantive, to send it back for approval again.
Okay. Thank you for that.
And I don't know if Kim or Pamela want to add anything more on that from the discussion at LATC, but.
Yes, thank you, Laura. In addition, there were just a couple of updates. If you go on to page 6, where it lists all of the members, some of the information needed to be updated. One member retired. There were certain changes from the last draft. So small things again.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thank you. Any other board member comments, questions? I see none. Moderator, may we open this up for public comment, please?
We are once again open for public comment. If you'd like to make a comment, please tap that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial in users, dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please. Thank you. I'll stop for a second just because I do know that we are required to follow DCA workplace guidelines, and I want to just check in with our moderator. We've moved swiftly through our agenda items, and we only have 2 more items to go, item N and also then our closed session. I want to make sure that I'm not stepping on any regulations or time constraints on your end, and are you able to let me know if we're able to proceed now or if we need to take a 15-minute workplace break at this time?
I think we should proceed, depending on how long N is going to be. I think we can head to closed session, and then
okay,
you guys will be able to do what you need to do.
I will go to council for this as well.
I would recommend we go ahead and take a 15-minute break because there's multiple staff members on the meeting as well.
Okay, great. So at this time, it is 11:42. We will take a 15-minute break. I will see you all back here at 11:57 sharp. Welcome back, everyone. I'll give us a minute for everyone to get back with us, get your cameras on. Boy, that was a nice break, much needed. God bless California for regulations. That was much needed. And thank you, staff, for all the hard work you do and for putting this together and making these meetings possible. I appreciate it. Before we get started again, I see most everyone's back, but I'll just stop and ask Secretary Gladstone to take a roll call. I guess our secretary is not back yet. We'll wait just a minute.
as the moderator, it looks like we got Secretary Gladstone back in the panelist list. If there's anyone else who logged off and needs to be brought back from the attendees to the panelists, please raise a hand now.
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much.
Would you like me to take roll call now, Mr. President?
I'm sorry, yes, I was muted. Let's take a roll call. Sorry.
Taking roll call. President Ward.
I'm present.
Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones, not yet. Gladstone here. Mr. Ted. Mr. Feng. Here. A little louder, please. Mr. Feng, a little louder. Are you here? I think I heard him, yes. Ms. Kanani?
Here.
Yes. Ms. Kwan? Ms. Kwan? Mr. Manuk?
Sorry, here.
Ms. Kwan, okay. Mr. Manukia?
Here.
Here. Mr. Pearman?
Present.
Ms. Serrano?
Present.
And Fred Suisse?
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Mr. Secretary, this is Member Ron Jones. Just to acknowledge the fact that I'm present as well. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Sorry if I didn't read your name.
Thank you, Secretary Gladstone. It sounds like we have full attendance again. Bear with me while I get my screen back up. Okay. We'll move to item N. This is a regulations update. It's located on page 191 in the packet. And I would like to introduce and ask Mr. Tim Rhoda to give us a presentation, please.
All right, thank you very much. This regulatory package is related to experience evaluation, which is how the board determines when a candidate is ready for examination and licensure. There are a lot of changes to this evaluation section. Most of them are structural. We're getting rid of the additional columns that are no longer relevant to evaluation of records. And based on discussions from the PQC, we are elevating architecturally related degrees to year-for-year credit. So that should be good for our candidates. And we are also eliminating the limitation on experience gained while in college for students. So they are no longer capped at a certain amount of experience gained while in school. Those are the large changes that we are making to this experience evaluation chart. And the rest of it, again, it's a lot of structural changes and elimination of duplicative language that's no longer needed. Do you have any questions for me on 117?
I don't see any hands.
Related question for both you and have we have all our paper file digitized of our licensee?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Seems can you hear me well? I noticed Secretary Blackstone cannot hear me well either.
I'll step in, Member Fang. It did go in and out a bit, but I'll repeat the question just in case it helps. The question is, do we have all of the licensee files digitized currently in our system?
No, I do not believe we do. That's a project that we will be working on.
Yeah, the business modernization and okay, maybe at some point staff can inform the board what's the time frame of that effort. A part of business modernization, I know, but it would be good to know the plan time-wise. That's my comment. Okay. I'm not sure how that relates to the 117 package. That's our experience evaluation, though. This is strictly about the determination of eligibility of our candidates for licensure. I was referred to the files that which documents this experience in prior years of our licensee was paper-based. And as a part of business modernization, we're hoping these files can be digitized.
Xian, this is Laura. I can report that at the next board meeting as to what the status is and what a time frame is like.
We don't need to continue on this topic.
I'm not sure if members have any other questions, but if when we are done with questions, at the appropriate time, if we could get a motion to approve the proposed regulatory text for 16 CCR section 117, direct staff to submit the text to the director of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency for review, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to initiate the rulemaking process, make any non-substantive changes to the package, and set the matter for a hearing if requested. If no adverse comments are received during the 45-day comment period and no hearing is requested, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulations at 16 CCR section 117 as noticed.
I can make that motion as
Thank you
by Laura.
Thank you for that stated motion. I want to just make sure there's no more comments from the board before I accept Member Fang's first motion on this. I don't believe there are, but just to make sure we don't have any more. Okay, great. So Member Fang has made a motion to our executive officer's stated motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Member Manukian has made a second. We will now open this. Moderator, may we please open this up WebEx for public comment, please?
We are accepting public comment on the motion. This is agenda item N. If you would like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, thank you. So we have a motion made by Member Fang, seconded by Member Manukian. Secretary Gladstone, may we please take a vote?
Okay, Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Gladstone, yes. Mr. Fang.
Yes.
Ms. Kanani.
Yes.
Ms. Kwan.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Manukian.
Yes.
Mr. Pearman.
Aye.
Ms. Serrano.
Aye.
And Fred Suisse.
Aye.
Okay, that carries unanimously.
Thank you so much. There is one item left on our agenda for open public meeting. So we're going to move past item O to item P, which is the review of future.
Lenny, this is Laura. Sorry to interrupt. We actually have a couple items under the regulation update. So we have.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I'll turn it back over to Tim.
I thought that was short. Okay. I'll take this back. Okay.
So I'm going to go on to N2, which is a regulatory package amendment to CCR's 121, our reciprocity section, and 124, our California supplemental examination section. So these changes are primarily cleaning up section 121 and clarifying the requirements for reciprocity qualification in California. Our current language references a lot of out-of-date programs and practices. So this is just streamlining everything down in that section and clarifying and bulleting out what is required for a candidate to submit to us for reciprocity to qualify for a reciprocity license. And because this section, I made reference to being eligible to the California supplemental examination, that language would then be under scrutiny for the Office of Administrative Law. And we noticed that the California supplemental examination fee and what the application is required is not spelled out. So that is why the CSE section has been added to this regulatory proposal. We're just adding where you can find the fee for the CSE as well as what needs to be on the application provided to the candidates for us. Do you have any questions for me on CCR 121 and 124? Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. There was a change made. Drew, would you be able to pull that up? We had one sentence added to the regulatory language that differs from what was included in the packet.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't make a slide of that.
That's fine. I will read it to you. This is on page, this for you. Page 207 of the packet, under 121, subsection A1, there is now a sentence at the very bottom of that A1 that reads, all such candidates that meet the documentary requirements set out in section 109B5 shall have the review of their application expedited and the fee waived pursuant to section 115.5 of the code. This is to cover our military expedite process to ensure that those candidates are captured and appropriately expedited if they apply for reciprocity.
Understood. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Vice President Jones.
Just to be clear, you said under A1, and it follows the strike through of these regulations following that?
That is correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Any questions, comments from board members? I see none. Moderator, may we please open this up for public comment?
So, Sunny, but this is Laura. I'm sorry to interrupt, but before we do that, do you want me to read a suggested motion?
I'm sorry.
So we can public comment on that as well?
Thank
you.
I apologize. Yes.
So, a suggested motion would be to move to approve the proposed regulatory text for 16 CCR section 121 and 124. Direct staff to submit the text to the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency for review. Authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to initiate the rulemaking process, make any non-substantive changes to the package, and set the matter for hearing if requested. If no adverse comments are received during the 45-day comment period and no hearing is requested, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulations at 16 CCR section 121 and 124 as noticed.
Thank you. Will one of our board members propose the stated motion?
I make a motion to approve.
I second.
I'll stop us again.
Board President?
Ms. Halbo, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, she read exactly what we had in the memo, and the addition of that sentence would be to say to consider the motion to approve the text as amended in the meeting. So it's the same language except adding in the first, before the first comma, as amended in the meeting, so that it includes that additional sentence.
I see. So as amended in the meeting, the statement that our executive officer has read, we need someone to propose that motion. Is that what you're saying? Or we need to re-propose the entire motion?
Let me just read it again so it's in the record correctly.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay, so it's a motion to approve the proposed regulatory text for 16 CCR sections 121 and 124 as amended. Direct staff to submit the text to the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency for review. Authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to initiate the rulemaking process, make any non-substantive changes to the package, and set the matter for hearing if requested. If no adverse comments are received during the 45-day comment period and no hearing is requested, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulations at 16 CCR sections 121 and 124 as noticed.
Excellent. May I have a board member propose that motion, please?
Yes, I propose that motion for approval.
Secretary Gladstone has made the motion, and we have a second from member Kanani. Thank you. And we'll stop now. And moderator, will you please open this up for public comment?
We are accepting public comment on the motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial in users dial *3 to raise a hand. And just as a reminder, we have a Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. You may type the word comment if you're having trouble finding that hand button. We're going to take just a few seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the motion? And Mr. Gladstone, be aware I muted your microphone.
Yes, thank you. Secretary Gladstone, will you please take a vote?
Okay, President Ward.
Aye.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Gladstone, yes. Mr. Feng.
Yes.
Ms. Kanani.
Yes.
Ms. Kwan.
Yes.
Mr. Manukian.
Yes.
Mr. Pearman.
Yes.
Ms. Serrano.
Yes.
And Mr. Suisse.
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous.
Thank you. Mr. Rhoda. Do we have
Yes,
more?
this last one is just an update on the status of the zero net carbon. I just want to make sure that you know that it is with the Office of Administrative Law for their review. Their review period concludes on December 28th. I have not heard from them yet, but they usually don't communicate with us until a week or two before the deadline. So it's on track for its implementation. That's it.
So no action required on our part. Do we have any comments from the board? I see no comments. Moderator, may we please open this item up for public review, please?
We are open for public comment on agenda item N. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment in the Q&A box, or better yet, raise a hand by tapping that hand button. Dial-in users may dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue?
Yes, please. Okay. We will skip over the closed session. We will actually adjourn after closed session. But before we go into closed section, we'll take up our final item on the agenda, which is item P, which is the review of future meeting dates. I I believe we have our next meeting set. Executive.
Yeah,
Zuniga,
we do.
I do not have the date in front of me.
Yeah, it's February 22nd. We'll be meeting in Los Angeles. This is an in-person meeting, and it's a Thursday instead of our typical Friday. This is to accommodate presenter and the use of the facility. So I will send out information to all members, and then we'll also send out a schedule for the rest of the year. At this point, this meeting is a traditional in-person meeting. I don't know if we're going to have the option to have remote participation, so we will work on that, and I'll provide more information to members shortly. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Where will it be held in particular?
City Hall. We'll be meeting in the Public Works boardroom at City Hall. It's a beautiful architectural, historic space, and I'm very excited about it. The city's been so gracious to allow us to use that space. And we'll also have, I think, a couple of exciting guests with us, which will make it for a nice meeting, and it'll be wonderful to reconvene with you all in person finally and in the same place and same room. So I'm looking forward to it, and to also hosting you here in Los Angeles with our other Angelinos. So it will be great. At this time, before we go into closed session, I won't adjourn now, but I will just take a moment to stop and thank staff. I mean, we can't tell you how much we appreciate all that goes into this. Welcome to all of our new staff and our relocated and moved around and new position staff. Our new council, it's so great to have you with us and to keep me on track. So thank you so much. I am looking forward to more of this. And also to our rock star moderator for putting up with us today. Oh my goodness, we can't thank you enough. So thank you. Okay, so at this time, I'll say goodbye to all of our public members. And for the public members, this is it. We will adjourn while we're in closed session. So we will not come back online publicly, and all the staff will say, okay, I've got council reminding me I'm doing something wrong here.
I am so sorry. If we could ask for public comment on the dates. I doubt we'll have any, but we need to ask.
So I'll
Thank
stop and ask our moderator one last time to open us up for public comments on our future meeting date.
All right, if you have a public comment on the future meeting date, please raise a hand. This is your final opportunity to make a public comment for this meeting. We're going to take just a few seconds. I don't see any dial-in users, but as a reminder, if anyone's connected by phone, dial *3 to raise a hand. Seeing no request for comment, do you wish to continue to close session?
Yes, please. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, this time it's for real. Goodbye, except for board members, please stay online as we transition into closed session. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
You too.